Hi there, Future Mary here. I just wanted to put a little disclaimer at the beginning of this episode. I do talk about some body image things and some eating disorder topics very briefly. So if that's something that you are sensitive about, please, it's okay if you have to skip this week's episode. I completely understand. All right, enjoy. Welcome to Muscles and Malarkey, the podcast about all things strength, fitness, and fun. I'm your host, Mary. Firstly, I'd like to say hello and welcome back. Season 2 is here. I'm so excited for this season. There's so many great episodes down the line. I have some wonderful interviews with some fun friends, and I touch on some great topics this season. Now today, I want to dive into a topic that's both fascinating and frustrating. Fashion trends and how body types have been treated as trends throughout history. Let's take a stroll through the decades and unpack what's been considered, quote, ideal for women's bodies and why we need to reject these fleeting standards. In the 1920s, women would bind their chests and downplay their curves to achieve a boyish look that complemented the flapper dresses that were popular at the time. The idea was youthful and androgynous. Fast forward to the 1950s. The hourglass figure dominated, and Marilyn Monroe is an iconic example of this ideal. Did you know that at this point in time, weight-gaining pills were actively advertised to women so they could fill out and achieve those coveted curves? Moving on to the 1990s. This is when heroin chic became the trend. Super skinny, stick-thin bodies were celebrated with an emphasis on being as slim and tiny as possible. The 2010s. This is when the big booties took center stage. I'm looking at you, Nicki Minaj, and that anaconda don't. I will say that the Kardashian influence was unfortunately undeniable, and this shifted the focus from thinness to curvier figures, particularly emphasizing a larger butt. Now we're into the 2020s. Weirdly, we're halfway through the 2020s. It's bizarre. Sadly, the pendulum seems to be swinging back towards the heroin chic of the 90s and the early 2000s, along with the return of velour tracksuits and Janko jeans. Do you notice the pattern here? Bodies, like fashion, are treated as trends, but it's completely unrealistic to expect your body to change and evolve with these fleeting ideals. Every body is a good body. I grew up in the late 90s and the early 2000s. I was acutely aware that my body did not match what was quote unquote in at the time. The media bombarded us with messages of skinny, skinny, skinny. Everywhere I looked, magazines, TV shows, movies, there was a constant narrative about being skinny. Headlines screamed about how to lose 10 pounds in 3 days, and tabloids shamed celebrities for, quote, letting themselves go with posting the most unflattering bikini shots. TV shows labeled women weighing 125 pounds as plus size, and movies made eating disorders the punchline of jokes. Remember The Devil Wears Prada? Emily's line, quote, I'm one stomach flu away from my goal weight. That just epitomizes the toxic mindset of the era. By the late 2000s and early 2010s, platforms like Tumblr featured pro-ana or pro-anorexia pages, and they glorified very harmful habits. Thigh gaps and the absence of hip dips were idolized, while eating after 8 p.m. was practically a sin. It was toxic, to say the least. It's understandable that a lot of us growing up in that time might not have had the best relationships with our bodies. The number of stupid diets and things I tried in high school and in college, it's just so dumb looking back on how much energy and time that I wasted trying to achieve a goal that was placed upon me by an outside societal force. Things started to shift for me once I got into the later portion of my college years, because the narrative in society started shifting as well. Like I said in a previous episode, I started college in 2012 and I graduated with my master's in 2017. Now, around 2014, the strong, not skinny message, I think, really took hold. And I found myself motivated by this new direction. For the first time, I felt like there was actually room for a body like mine. Does anyone else remember that Meghan Trainor song? I remember listening to that song, All About That Bass, and it was like one of those empowering calls to embrace inner beauty and to like promote positive body image and self-acceptance. I definitely remember listening to that song while walking to the rec center at school. I think it's a wonderful thing that the body positive movement gained a lot of steam in the mid to late 2010s. Unfortunately, with our pendulum swinging towards the heroin chic era again, with platforms like TikTok, we're seeing a resurgence in harmful messaging, very reminiscent of the pro-ana blogs of the Tumblr days. There are some creators that I have seen that perpetuate fat phobia with content like, "My biggest fear is becoming fat." These messages harm younger audiences who often lack the tools to question them. Just like the kids growing up in the 90s and 2000s, being inundated with the TV shows and the magazine tabloids. We didn't have the tools to question it. And now these kids really don't have the tools to question what they're seeing on platforms like TikTok. And here's the thing. Wanting to improve your health or lose adipose tissue is not inherently bad. And I'm not trying to say that it's inherently bad. What is harmful is the fear-mongering and misinformation that's often disguised as wellness advice. There is no empowerment or education for people to build off of. Industries profit off our insecurities, constantly creating new problems for us to fix. It is a never-ending cycle of self-criticism. I want you to hear me loud and clear. Your body is not a trend. You do not owe anyone a quote-unquote perfect figure, and you deserve to live in your body peacefully and without shame. Please rewind that 15 seconds and listen to it again if you need that reminder, because fashion trends will come and go, but your self-worth is not tied to the rise of low-rise jeans. Wear what makes you feel comfortable, happy, and confident. And remember, your clothes should fit you, not the other way around. I used to think that if I had a pair of jeans that didn't fit, that there was something I needed to do to change so that I could fit back into them. When in reality, I just needed to buy the next size up. This is a reminder to you that if you have to buy a different size than what you're used to buying, that is okay. Bodies are going to change as you age. Work with your body. Do not fight against it, trying to force it into clothing that is not the right size for you. And I don't mean that in like an aesthetic thing. I mean that in a comfort thing. I would rather wear the next size up in jeans and feel comfortable going out to play trivia with my friends than wearing the size down that I'm emotionally attached to and feeling those jeans cut into me because they're not comfortable. That makes no sense to do that. Just wear clothes that fit you. You are not morally failing if you have to change your clothing size. Women's clothing sizes are a joke anyway, let's be real. I think this is a good time for one of my favorite quotes. The most rebellious thing that you can do is loving your body. In a society that profits off insecurities, loving yourself is a radical act of defiance. And I want you to be defiant against the pressure to be as thin as possible, the idea that you need to constantly battle your body, and the industries that make money off your perceived flaws. Looking at you, cellulite, you're a perfectly normal thing that everybody has. Ignore the noise telling you that you are not enough as you are. Now, I know it's easier said than done. Body acceptance is a journey, and I still struggle with it sometimes. But here's the truth I hold on to. Your body has carried you through 100% of your toughest, worst days. It will continue to support you through whatever comes next. Treat it with the care and respect it deserves. That's a much more sustainable option in the long run. There's another quote that I think of frequently when I hear people who are at war with their bodies. You cannot hate yourself into loving your body. And that's why I recommend approaching this from a lens of care and compassion towards yourself. Because if you are waking up at 4:45 in the morning to go to the gym because you hate yourself, you're not going to continue doing that. You're going to burn out real fast. But if you wake up at 4:45 every morning because it's important for you to take care of yourself and get a workout in because it makes you feel good and you like the endorphins and it gives you time to spend with your son after you're done with work, that is much more sustainable. You'll keep up with that. I hope that this episode of Muscles and Malarkey serves as a reminder that you are worth so much more than your physical appearance, and you're worth so much more than society's fleeting standards. Your body is a good body. On not so great days, revisit this episode and remember that you're an incredible, powerful human being. I don't care how granola that sounds. We are constantly inundated with negativity. And my goal for the next however many years is to be wholly ungovernable and absolutely defiant against a society that wants to put me in a box. And I hope that all of you will join me on that act of absolute defiance and refusing to be put in a box. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, share, rate, and review. It helps the podcast grow and reach more people. Do you have any questions or suggestions? Email me at musclesandmalarkey@gmail.com or find me on Instagram at musclesandmalarkey. Yeehaw and yee-claw, everybody.